"You're not supposed to leave. You're supposed to compete," she yelled after kissing another guy at a party, to make me jealous. I said, "Congratulations. You made me something better, single," and walked out. She followed me to the car, banging on the window. I drove away. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The music was a dull throb in my chest, and the air in Jake's apartment was thick with beer and cheap cologne. I was searching for Qley, a fresh drink for her in my hand, a peace offering. We'd had that same, tired argument in the car on the way here. "You're in your own head tonight. You're not even present with me." I'd sighed, told her I was just tired from work. It was the wrong answer. The right answer was supposed to be a grand, immediate gesture. Pull the car over, look into her eyes, and promise her the moon. But after 5 years, the moons I'd promised were collecting dust in some emotional warehouse. I was out of grand gestures. I just had a lukewarm beer and a hope that the party noise would drown out the tension. That's when I saw her. Across the crowded living room, out on the dimly lit balcony. Her back was to the glass door, her blonde hair catching the faint light from the street lamp below. And there was Mark, the guy from her spin class, facing her. He was all smarmy smiles and open body language. He leaned in, and Qley leaned in to meet him. It wasn't a surprise attack. It was a slow, deliberate convergence. My feet rooted to the floor. The crowd near the balcony door noticed, a few whoops cutting through the music. Someone yelled, "Get it, Mark." But her face, that's what froze the scene into a sickening tableau. As her lips met his, her eyes, her beautiful, hazel eyes I'd stared into for half a decade, drifted over his shoulder. They found me in the crowd. They locked onto mine. And she didn't flinch. She didn't pull away in shock or guilt. She held the kiss, and she held my gaze. A challenge. A declaration. My stomach didn't drop. It crystallized into something hard and cold. This wasn't a mistake. This was a performance, and I was the intended audience. I'd seen this show before, just in different costumes. A memory flashed, clear and sharp, finding a rumpled dinner receipt in her jeans pocket a year ago. Table for two. The Oceanair. $180. A male colleague's name scribbled in the tip line. My heart had hammered. I presented it to her, my voice tight with hurt. She'd taken it, her face a mask of innocent confusion, then feigned surprise. "Oh, that. God, Leo, it was a team celebration." His card declined, so I paid and he Venmo'd me. "You're not jealous, are you?" I'd been so relieved I'd bought her flowers the next day. Big, expensive lilies. Wrong move. She'd been distant for a week. Later, during a fight, she'd spat it out. "You should have been furious. You should have demanded to know what he was doing buying my dinner. The flowers just made you look weak. Like you were rewarding me. The game. Always the game. And I just failed to play correctly." The kiss on the balcony broke. Mark, looking pleased with himself, whispered something in her ear. She laughed, that tinkling, fake laugh she used when she was putting on a show, and glanced at me again. The message was clear: your move. The cold crystal in my gut spread through my veins. The noise of the party faded into a distant hum. I placed the 2 beers I was holding carefully on a nearby bookshelf. I felt remarkably calm. The confusion, the searing hot pain of betrayal. It was there, but it was buried under miles of this new, glacial clarity. I walked to the balcony door. The small crowd parted for me, sensing drama. I slid the door open. The cool night air hit my face. Mark saw me first, his smirk faltering. He had the decency to look like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar and took a half step back. Qley turned. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright with adrenaline and victory. She was braced for a scene. She was ready for the fight. She was hungry for it. "Leo," she said, her voice a mix of defiance and mock surprise. "There you are. I was looking for you." I didn't look at Mark. "Get lost," I said, my voice flat. He didn't need telling twice, slinking back into the party like a shadow. It was just us two on the balcony. The distant city sounds filled the silence between us. "What?" she demanded, crossing her arms. "You've been ignoring me all night. Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I just committed a crime." "It was just a joke, Leo. To wake you up." She took a step closer, her scent, the perfume I'd bought her for her birthday, hitting me. It felt like a violation. "See," she said, a triumphant little smile playing on her lips. The same lips that were on Mark seconds ago. Now I have your attention. Was that so hard? A joke? A wake-up call? The script was so familiar it was pathetic. The receipt, the accidental text messages from exes left unread on her screen, the stories about guys hitting on her at the gym, they were all flares shot into the sky, demanding I scramble the jets and come to her rescue. To prove my love through the intensity of my jealousy. And I always had. Until now. The last of the emotional static cleared. The picture was perfectly sharp, and it was ugly. I looked at her, the woman I thought I'd build a life with, and I felt nothing but a profound, weary distance. She misread my silence for speechlessness, for the prelude to an explosion. She pushed harder. Well, aren't you going to say anything? Or are you just going to stand there and pout? I took a slow breath. The cold inside me was absolute. It was peace. Congratulations, I said, my voice quiet, steady, and utterly empty of the fire she wanted. You made me something better, single. Her triumphant smile vanished. Confusion, then disbelief, then anger flashed across her face in rapid succession. I didn't wait for the next line. I turned my back on her and walked toward the balcony door. Leo, her voice cut through the night, sharp and commanding. Where are you going? I slid the door open and stepped back into the wall of sound. I didn't look back. Hey, you're not supposed to leave, she yelled, her voice chasing me as I moved through the crowd, heading for the front door. People were staring. You're supposed to compete. Her words, screamed across a crowded room, hung in the air. The final, unvarnished rule of her world. I wasn't a partner. I was a contestant. And I had just walked off the stage, silent, my mic dropped. The last thing I heard as I pulled the apartment door shut behind me, muffling the music and the chaos, was her voice, shrill and furious, twisting from a command into a plea. If you walk out that door, we're done. The door clicked shut. The hallway was quiet. I took the stairs down to the parking lot, 2 at a time, the cool, still air of the stairwell feeling like freedom. The cold night air of the parking lot hit me like a slap, but it was a clean, clarifying slap. It carried no scent of her perfume, no trace of the party's stale heat. I focused on the simple mechanics. Find the car, unlock it, get in. My hands were steady. The frantic hammering of my heart in the balcony had given way to a slow, deliberate thud. It wasn't panic. It was a funeral march for something that had died long before tonight. I heard the stairwell door crash open behind me. Leo, stop. Her heels clacked a frantic staccato on the asphalt. I didn't speed up. I didn't slow down. I reached my car, pressed the fob, and slid into the driver's seat. The familiar scent of leather and the coffee I'd spilled last week greeted me. A reality that was still mine. I closed the door just as she reached it. The thud of her palms hitting the window made me jump, a final, physical echo of the shock she'd aimed at me. Open the door. Her voice was muffled but sharp, distorted by the glass. Her face was pressed close, mascara starting to smudge under eyes wide with a new, raw panic. You're overreacting. It meant nothing. I put the key in the ignition. The dashboard lit up, a constellation of familiar, mundane lights. The fuel gauge was low. I made a mental note to fill up tomorrow. Leo, listen to me. She was banging again, a rapid, desperate percussion. You're really going to throw away 5 years because of a stupid kiss? A kiss? It was to make you jealous, you idiot. Because I love you. The word, shouted through a pane of glass, had the weight of a feather. It meant nothing. It was just another tool in the game. Say you love me to get the reaction. I looked at her, really looked at her. The beautiful, furious, terrified face of the woman who had just staged my public humiliation as a test of devotion. I felt a distant pang, like remembering the plot of a sad movie I'd seen years ago. But I didn't feel hers. I was already gone. I started the engine. The soft rumble vibrated through the seat. Her expression shattered. The anger melted into pure, unscripted fear. The performance was over. This was real. She hadn't written this scene. Please, she screamed, her breath fogging the glass. Leo, please. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Just open the door. We can talk about this. Sorry. The word she'd wielded as a weapon before. Sorry you made me do that. Sorry you can't take a joke. Sorry you're so sensitive. This sorry sounded different. It was the sorry of consequences, not manipulation. It was too late. I shifted the car into reverse, my movements calm, precise. I checked the mirror. Don't you dare, she shrieked, her fists pounding now. If you drive away, it's over. For real. You'll never see me again. Do you hear me? You're making a mistake. I let my foot off the brake, and the car began to roll backward. She stumbled, keeping up for a step, her hands sliding off the window. For a second, our eyes met through the glass. Her face was a mask of utter, bewildered devastation. She hadn't lost her boyfriend. She'd lost her audience. Her favorite player had quit the league. I turned the wheel, shifted to drive, and pulled away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing alone under the orange glow of a parking lot light. She grew smaller and smaller, a solitary figure in a too small dress, her arms hanging limp at her sides, until I turned the corner and she disappeared from view. The silence in the car was immense. It wasn't empty. It was full. For the first time in years, the silence wasn't something to be anxiously filled with a promise, a plan, a grand gesture. It was just peace. It was mine. I drove straight to my apartment. Not our apartment. She'd never officially moved in, but her presence was an occupation. The throw pillows she'd picked out, the specific brand of fancy hand soap by the sink, the drawer full of her hair ties and forgotten lip glosses. I walked in and stood in the center of the living room. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just breathed. Then, I got to work. I took the empty cardboard box from a recent online delivery. I went to the bathroom first. Her shampoo, her expensive face creams, the pink razor. Into the box. I cleared the drawer. Hair ties, bobby pins, 2 tubes of that lip gloss. The living room, a novel she was reading, a charging cable she'd left. The kitchen, her favorite mug, a half-empty bag of coffee she liked. It was a clinical, unhurried process. With each item, the cold certainty inside me warmed slightly, not with feeling for her, but with a reclaiming of space. My space. My phone, which I'd silenced at the party, lit up on the counter. A cascade of notifications. Qley, 12 missed calls. Qley, call me. Qley, we need to talk. Qley, you're being childish. Qley, I'm sorry. Please. Qley, answer your phone. I didn't. I picked up the phone, went to her contact, and hit block. Then Instagram. Block. Facebook. Block. It wasn't an act of anger. It was digital housekeeping. I was drawing a border. I placed the sealed box by the front door. I'd drop it at her place tomorrow. Then, I sat down on my now uncluttered couch, in the profound quiet, and stared at the wall. The betrayal replayed, but it was distant. The dominant emotion wasn't hurt. It was exhaustion. A deep, bone-level fatigue from a 5-year competition I never signed up for. And then, beneath that, a fragile, new thing, relief. The first week was a study in silence. The kind of silence that feels loud after years of constant emotional weather. I went to work. I came home. I cooked simple meals for one. I started reading a book that had been gathering dust on my nightstand for a year. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just existed. And in that existence, I began to remember who I was when I wasn't preparing for the next test. The messages started coming through the only remaining cracks in the wall. Mutual friends. Jake, party host, hey man, heard about the drama. Qley's a mess. She's saying it was just a stupid prank that got out of hand. You know how she is. Might be worth hearing her out. I stared at the text. You know how she is. The universal excuse for people who treat love like a combat sport. I typed back a simple, unemotional truth. Me. I do know how she is. I'm done. He didn't reply. Then, from her best friend, Sarah. Sarah. Leo, I'm not taking sides, but she's really devastated. She's crying all the time. She knows she screwed up big time. Can't you just talk to her? For closure? The manipulation was secondhand now, funneled through a proxy. Crying all the time. Devastated. The goal was clear. Provoke my protector instinct. Lure me back into the arena with the promise of being her comfort from the pain she'd caused. I saw the trap with crystalline clarity. Me. My closure was walking out. She'll have to find her own. Sarah. That's cold, dude. After 5 years. I didn't respond. I wasn't cold. I was sterile. I was healing, and I couldn't risk infection. The grapevine, which I did not tend to but could not help but hear whispers from, began to bear bitter fruit. I heard it from a coworker who was friends with someone in Qley's spin class. So, apparently your ex and that Mark guy are a thing now, he mentioned awkwardly by the coffee machine. I took a sip. Okay. He seemed surprised by my non-reaction. Yeah, I guess it was pretty fast, huh? I wouldn't know, I said, and meant it. The next update, a few weeks later, was more detailed. Sarah, perhaps hoping to elicit a reaction, sent a more dramatic missive. Sarah, I guess you got what you wanted. She's a wreck. Mark used her for a couple weeks and ghosted her. Told her she was too intense. Real classy guy you let her run to. The blame shifting was impressive. You let her run to. As if my non-participation was an act of sabotage. I didn't reply, but the karma was noted. Poetic, almost. The prop in her play had rejected the lead actress for overacting. The final social update came through Jake again, who'd been mostly quiet. Jake ran into Qley at the store. Looks rough. She's kind of burning bridges. Yelling at everyone for not being on her side. It's a mess. Anyway, hope you're good, man. The report was clinical, but the subtext was clear. Her support system, the very audience that had hooped at her performance, was growing tired of the endless, one-woman show. The drama had no target anymore, so it was splashing on everyone nearby. Too intense. Meanwhile, my life was undergoing a quiet renovation. I joined a gym, not to get revenge fit, but because I had time and needed an outlet. I reconnected with an old friend from college for a beer, and we talked about baseball and work, not relationships. I deep cleaned my apartment. The box had been delivered the day after the party, left on her doorstep without a note. I'd driven away before she could appear. One Saturday afternoon, a month in, I was assembling a new bookshelf, something I wanted, with clean, modern lines, not the rustic chic she would have insisted on. The sun was streaming through the bare windows. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. A part of me knew. I let it go to voicemail. An hour later, a notification popped up. Voicemail received. I finished tightening a bolt, wiped my hands, and played it. Her voice was thinner, stripped of its performative edge. It was just shaky and sad. Leo? Hi. It's me. I miss you. I've been doing a lot of thinking. That night, I was so stupid. I was scared you were falling out of love with me. A long pause, a shaky breath. Mark was nothing. A mistake. You're everything. Can we please just talk? Get coffee. I saved the voicemail. Not as a keepsake, but as evidence. Evidence of the shift. The manipulation was still there. I was scared, but it was underscored by a genuine tremor of loss. It didn't move me. It was like hearing a recording of a storm from inside a strong, warm house. I deleted it. Then I blocked the number. The quiet dignity wasn't a strategy. It was a state of being. By refusing to compete, I had disqualified myself from her game entirely. And from the peaceful sidelines, I watched as the game, deprived of its primary opponent, began to consume itself. The voicemail was a tremor, but the earthquake came on a Tuesday evening 2 weeks later. I was at the gym, halfway through a set of deadlifts, the burn in my muscles a clean, honest pain. It was my new temple, a place of repetition and clear progress. No games, just gravity. I saw her reflection in the mirror before I saw her directly. A flash of blonde hair near the water fountain. Qley. She was wearing yoga pants and a hoodie, but it wasn't the polished, matching set kind she used to wear. This was thrown on, defensive. Her eyes were locked on me, red-rimmed and hollow. I finished my set, re-racked the weight with a controlled clang, and reached for my towel. I didn't approach her. I didn't run. I simply acknowledged her presence with a slow turn. She walked over, her steps tentative. The gym noise, the clanking plates, the grunts, the thudding bass of the overhead music felt like a shield. Leo, she said. Her voice was raw, scraped thin. Can we talk? Please? Just for a minute. I wiped my neck with the towel. This isn't a good place. It's the only place I could find you. You block me everywhere. The wine was creeping in, the victimhood. She took a ragged breath, trying to recalibrate. I got the box. Thank you for bringing it. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. I listened to your voicemail. I finally said, not to be kind, but to state a fact and move the scene along. My answer is the same. Her face crumpled, but it quickly tightened into anger. The sadness was a layer. Beneath it was the ever-present fuse. You think you're so mature? So above it all, she hissed, taking a step closer. The other gym-goers were subtly averting their eyes, tuning into the drama. You just quit. That's all this is. You're a quitter. I was trying to make us stronger. To feel something real. This was the old script, but the delivery was unhinged, stripped of its theatrical flair. This was pure, Toxic truth. You wanted a reaction, I said, my voice flat. You got one. I wanted you to fight for me, she shouted, her voice breaking. A few people stared openly. I wanted you to show you cared. Instead, you just left. Like I was nothing. Like we were nothing. You made us nothing, I said, the words calm and heavy. On that balcony. You turned it into a public audition. I didn't want the part. Her eyes widened. The logic, spoken back to her so plainly, seemed to short-circuit her prepared arguments. The anger surged, filling the gap. It was ugly and magnificent, the final stripping away of the romantic, drama queen persona. You were lucky to have me, she spat, her finger jabbing toward my chest. I didn't flinch. You'll never find anyone who loves you as much as I did. You know why? Because you're boring, Leo. You're safe. You're a comfortable couch. And now you're alone because you're too proud to admit you overreacted to a little jealousy game. There it was. The core confession. A little jealousy game. My life, my heart, a board game to her. I felt nothing. No hurt, no anger. Just a profound, academic interest in watching a creature trapped in its own venom. I looked past her, toward the front desk where Kevin, the manager, was watching with concerned eyebrows. I raised my hand slightly in a one-moment gesture. I then looked back at Qley, who was breathing heavily, triumphant in her outburst, waiting for the counterattack, for the fight she craved. I didn't give it to her. I turned and walked toward the front desk. She stood frozen, confused. I leaned over the counter, speaking quietly to Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Sorry about that. Could you please let me know if that woman over by the racks is a member? If she's not, she's harassing me, and I'd appreciate if you could ask her to leave. Kevin, a big guy who'd seen it all, nodded once. On it, Leo. You good? I'm fine, I said, and I meant it. I turned and walked toward the locker room. I didn't look back. I heard Kevin's low, firm voice behind me. Excuse me, ma'am? Can I help you? And the sharp, incredulous intake of her breath. I showered in the empty locker room, the hot water washing away the sweat, not the encounter. That, I didn't need to wash away. It was already fossilizing into a lesson. I had my final, definitive answer. The woman I'd loved was a fiction. The real one was a sore loser screaming in a gym. 6 months to the day after the party, I was at my friend Ben's wedding. It was a low-key, backyard affair. I was there with Mara, a woman I'd been seeing for about 3 months. We'd met at a bookstore. She was sharp, quietly funny, and possessed a profound, calming sense of emotional equilibrium. Being with her felt like speaking my native language after years of trying to decipher a chaotic cipher. We laughed easily. There were no tests. I'd heard through the withering grapevine that Qley was invited. Ben's fiancée, Lisa, had been a peripheral friend of hers. I hadn't given it a second thought. I saw her the moment we walked in. She was standing alone near the makeshift bar, holding a glass of white wine. She looked thinner. The vibrant, attention-commanding energy she used to radiate was gone, replaced by a watchful, tense stillness. Her eyes found me instantly, then flicked to Mara, who was smiling at something Ben's grandmother said. I saw the calculation in Qley's eyes, the rapid assessment. Mara, with her intelligent eyes and easy smile, her hand resting lightly on my arm. The upgrade wasn't just visual, it was atmospheric. We looked peaceful. The reception flowed. Dinner, toasts, dancing. I danced with Mara, a slow, simple sway. I was aware of Qley watching from the shadows of the porch, a silent sentinel of her own regret. I didn't feel smug. I felt nothing about her presence at all. She was just another guest. Later, Mara went to the restroom. I drifted to the bar for a glass of water. I felt her approach before I saw her. You look happy. Her voice was close, drained of all its former music. I turned. She stood there, clutching her empty wine glass. Her gaze was on my face, searching for cracks, for a hint of the old Leo. I said. No qualifier. No thanks. Just a statement of fact, as undeniable as the weather. She flinched, just a little. My indifference was a colder rejection than any hatred. I get it now, she said, the words coming out in a rehearsed rush. What I did. I ruined everything. I don't expect you to take me back. I'm not that delusional anymore. She tried a shaky smile that didn't reach her eyes. I need you to know I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not for the game. For not seeing you. For not seeing what I had until I made you throw it away. It was the best apology she'd ever muster. Abject, self-aware, stripped of justification. It was designed to be disarming, to force me into the role of the gracious forgiver, to re-establish a connection, however painful. I looked at her. I saw the ghost of the girl I'd fallen for, now haunting the face of this tired, lonely woman. But the ghost had no power over me. "Qley," I said, my voice even final. "It's okay." She blinked, hope flaring for a millisecond in her hollow eyes. "You wanted a reaction," I continued. "You got one. It just wasn't the one you wanted." I took a sip of water. "That person you were trying to provoke, the one who'd chase you, compete for you, turn your drama into proof of his love?" I shook my head, a faint, distant smile on my lips. "He's gone. I don't miss him." Her face went ashen. The last of the hope died. She understood. This wasn't punishment. It was evolution. I had evolved past the need for her, for the games, for the entire ecosystem of our relationship. I was in a different world. "Ready to go?" Mara's warm voice came from beside me. She slipped her hand into mine, giving Qley a polite, neutral nod. "The Uber's 2 minutes away." "Perfect," I said, squeezing her hand. I turned back to Qley one last time. There was no triumph in my eyes. No lingering hurt. There was nothing for her at all. She was a closed chapter, a resolved equation. "Take care of yourself," I said. It was the most impersonal, conclusive phrase in the English language. I turned with Mara, and we walked away, through the twinkling lights of the backyard, toward the quiet street. I didn't look back. I didn't wonder what she was doing. I didn't think about her at all. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. Mara leaned her head on my shoulder. "You okay?" she murmured. I breathed in deeply, looking up at the sparse stars. The silence between us was companionable, full of a future we were both curious about. "Yeah," I said, and it was the truest word I'd ever spoken. "I really am." The past was a country I no longer lived in. I was free. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.